Wow, this movie has a lot of different things going on in it. Sometimes you might just take the wrong cab ride and the whole world turns upside down. Let's talk about it. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a Shudder original, the spoiler-free review of Black Cab. And it's starring Nick Frost, who, obviously has been Simon Pegg's buddy in all these great comedies, but he's done a lot of other stuff. Specifically, he did the Crazy House movie recently that I absolutely adored and everybody hates. But, it's a very particular brand of humor, and it's set to piss most people off. So if you haven't seen that movie and you're looking for something to spice up your evening, that might be the one. But back to Black Cab, this movie is directed by Bruce Goodison, who's done some other stuff like on TV. I think a lot of mostly British stuff that I have never heard of before. So this is my first foray into Bruce's work. And it's also written by Virginia Gilbert. Now, this is a story about a couple who are having, troubles. One of them is finding out that she's actually pregnant. And that night she goes to a dinner party with their friends and she notices that her boyfriend is kind of making advances to one of their friends. And also things are, run amok. And he proposes to her and she's not too happy. They leave the dinner and go into a black cab where Nick Frost, who's the driver, welcomes him into the car and things begin to fall apart. Now, this is a pretty wild, interesting story, I think, but a little messy when it comes to kind of how it delivers sort of the information to people. I think in part, it's probably because it's trying to balance the mystery out. I find that a lot of people these days really don't like to wait to find out information, and they even more so hate movies that end without answers. I'm not saying everybody, but I think it's like kind of a newer thing that a lot of younger audiences are not used to, that we kind of grew up with in like the 80s and 90s and so on, like where they kind of like leave you open, because this movie kind of has one of those endings where it doesn't exactly answer all the questions. But I'll tell you this, there is ghosts. There is Nick Frost being good and a bad guy, which I personally think he's pretty damn good at the role, and he's pretty qualified to be able to do both sides of that coin, I think. Whether you like him or not, he's still decent at this role. And I like how he kind of rides that line in between. And it starts to get a little bit more unhinged as it goes along. The main girl who's in the movie, the main star of the film, is Synnøve Carlson, I believe her name is. I don't know if I'm saying it properly, but the story is just a little too heavy, I think, for most people to pay attention that hard. But if you do pay attention and you do lock in, I think you will find a movie that is actually pretty interesting. Is it scary? I didn't really find it scary in the least. The way they do the ghost in this movie is more of artistic versus scares. It's more of kind of like a plot device rather than trying to be something scary, because this movie relies on a few twists that you may or may not see coming. Some you expect, some you don't expect, and they kind of rapid fire you in one particular exposition dump in the film, which I kind of had to go back and rewatch quite a few times, actually, because I was a little confused as to what was actually happening. And to make matters worse, by the end of the movie, it of course doesn't answer everything. But even that said, this is really a different movie than I've ever really seen. It feels like it's familiar in some ways, but the whole drive in this cab is kind of an interesting setting to do a story. Now, I've seen a couple of different films that, have done some really big things with a car ride, a cab ride. Someone gets in a car and then like it goes into this ghostly realm, the end of the world realm. There's a lot of these car movies that I've seen. It's kind of crazy. This one's actually very different than I've seen, and it kind of changes the rules of some supernatural stuff than I've ever seen too. But I kind of liked some of the ideas that were in this. I just don't think it really executed them as well as I wanted to. But the performances are pretty good in here, and the camera work and the kind of light, their director of photography did a really good job. They have some like interesting colors on the wall. It's not just like, regular light. They kind of do it very like a color palette of different colors and things, which I kind of like sometimes. It's got what I like to call that old MTV sort of music video style from the 80s, where you got like blue on the wall and red, or, you know, it's just one of those kind of things. But yeah, it is a little broken up, and, you know, by the end of the movie, just a lot of parts that just don't really add up. So I think a lot of people are going to be really disappointed with this, while some people will definitely be really into the concept of this story, because it's so different that I wasn't really expecting it, and how they treat the supernatural lore is a little confusing. Like, you're really not sure what's going on. They kind of have clues throughout the movie, which I appreciate. Like, they definitely put some thought into it, but I feel like the movie is too short or didn't do enough kind of explaining. And I hate to say that because I love mystery, and I love mystery in movies and stuff like that. But even I was lost in the film a little bit, and, you know, had to go back and kind of rewatch things to really kind of make sure I understood what the hell happened. I'm not going to do a spoiler review on this or anything like that, but I definitely think that there is some good value in this movie. It's at least worth a watch, in my opinion. Where you kind of stack up by the end of the movie is going to be really how you feel about the movie by the time it's over. But it did take a little while to get where it was going, and I felt like it could have sped it up a little bit. It's nice to see Nick Frost kind of branching out into some more like indie films and kind of doing some weird stuff. I think I'm just gonna get really weird with it, you know. and that's fine, because I actually kind of like him in both of these movies. I liked Crazy House much better than this, but it's a completely different film. Also, I want to mention, for those of you who are looking for gore or something like that, there is a little bit in here, but nothing that would make this kind of movie like that bad or anything. It's very light. There are moments in the film. It's mostly just, you know, people in the back of a cab being held prisoner for the most part. More of a supernatural film with some bad language in it. There's very few characters in this, so don't expect like a big movie. But they do really well for kind of how small the movie is. They make it feel like a lived-in world. It just kind of gets lost in the sauce a little bit. But I would probably watch this movie again just to kind of see if I could understand it better and maybe give it a better watch. But as I stand right now, I'm kind of like a 5.5 or a 6. Like, I don't know. Like, I appreciate its uniqueness, but it is pretty jumbled. You know, it is on Shudder, so if you have a subscription, you might as well check it out. I think it's at least worth a watch, just so you can kind of see if you understand what it is, and you can let me know in the comment section down below. But make sure you write spoilers in the comment section, okay? I hope you guys are doing well. I know things have been pretty crazy the past couple of days, so I hope you are doing well, and I hope I can bring more entertainment for you guys, some new movies. I'm gonna get into some exploitation stuff, some Japanese stuff. I got some gigantic hauls that you're gonna wanna see. Probably one of the biggest hauls I've ever seen in my entire life, which is from one of the kindest people I've ever met. So stay tuned. Be on the lookout for that. Thanks for coming by, and as always, long live the void.